February 11th meeting of the Grosse Ile Township Public Service Commission. I want to call the meeting to order, and we will start with the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Next, we're going to call the roll. Costick here. Kennedy?
Here.
Pedestris?
Present.
Biddle?
Yeah.
Stanko?
Here.
And Kevin Flavin.
Here.
I want to welcome Kevin. Kevin's our new township treasurer. This is our first meeting since he's been elected. So welcome to the DPS Commission. Kevin's going to be our liaison. And so I want to give you the opportunity to say a few comments, introduce yourself to the members here if you want to.
Thank you, Bill. My name is Kevin Flavin. I am the township treasurer for the last 83 days and counting. I'm privileged and pleased to be on the DPS Commission and look forward to working with everybody. And I appreciate the opportunity. Thank you.
Thank you for, we're happy to have you here. So hope you enjoy our activities. The next item that we have on the agenda is to approve tonight's agenda. So I'll ask the question, are there any additions or deletions to the agenda from the commission? Hearing none?
None.
Make a motion to approve tonight's agenda. Is there support? Support. Moved and supported. All in favor, indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The agenda is approved. Before we get into the first item, I just saw that we have a couple people in the audience, but our new township supervisor, Joe Porcarelli, just walked in. Joe, thank you for coming to our meeting tonight.
You're welcome. It's like going to American Park, seeing it live.
So I don't know how long you're going to be able to stay, but before you go, I would like, not now necessarily, I'd like to ask you to come up and make a few comments before you leave. We're going to cover a lot of items in this meeting tonight, so when you get ready to,
Whenever you want. You want it now or later, you just tell me when.
well, I suppose now, if you're ready now, that'd be fine.
Public comment in front of
Yes. You can make a comment now if you'd like. And I also want to acknowledge Bill Kyle is our new trustee from the township. And Bill, thank you for being here tonight. You're always welcome. We appreciate it.
Hi, good evening. Joe Porcarelli, as he stated, Township Supervisor. I wanted to come by tonight. I had a meeting with Bill and Derek the other day, and I told them I'd be by, especially with the budget issues. And I'm just, and I was straight with them. I told them, and not like there's other issues we have in other commissions, but this one I'm not real worried about. You know, you guys do a great job. You always have. I followed you. I do watch on TV. I do, but I told him I'm going to come see the show live tonight and just see everybody and go over what you have. He said he had a large agenda tonight, so I wanted to hit this meeting and just see what's about. But thank you. There's a lot of big things coming. Obviously, I think most of the funds from Grosse Ile Township run through the DPS more than any other department. And as I see it and what I've been looking into, and with Derek also, it's run very efficiently. The sewer treatment plant and even the staff, the workers, I'm telling the truth, and I know because I've told both of you this is one that when I say me, obviously I have to look at certain things being the supervisor, and it just gives you kind of a different perspective, but this is one I've never worried about, this commission. So thank you for what you do. You do a lot. It keeps that sewer treatment plant running right, and it's in the best interest of everyone, obviously, and everything else you do. So thank you, unless there's any questions.
Thanks for being here, Joe. We
No,
really appreciate it.
I told you I'd be here. I'm here, but I'm a little late, sorry. But
Oh, thank you very much.
Thank you, sir.
Joe.
There are a couple of people here from Elba, and we go quickly through our meeting usually, so I hope you can stay for a while, and when we get to the item on Elba, I'll call on you to speak and introduce yourself. Okay. The first item on the agenda tonight is brief comments from our township manager, about the EPA grant that he's got for our sanitary sewer lining project. Derek?
Sure. It's on the agenda as a presentation, but there isn't much of a presentation to be made here. The reason this is on the agenda is because part of our grant, we're required to basically give this notice out as a public information type component to the grant and offer any residents the opportunity to, number one, hear about it, but also comment about it. So I'm just going to read this into the record so that it can be part of the minutes, because then we have to send that information to the EPA to show that we had this at a public meeting. So in accordance with federal guidelines, grant guidelines, this memo is being developed to explain the grant received by Groseal Township from the federal government. This grant was received for the purposes of rehabilitating sanitary sewer pipes and manholes within the township of Groseal. Funding for this and other various projects were appropriated via the congressional budget appropriations process. The federal agency administering the funds and managing the grant is the United States Department of Environmental Quality. This funding dates to fiscal year 2023 and was for a total of $3,452,972. The intended use is, as previously stated in this memo, as well as upgrades to the township's wastewater treatment plant HVAC system. And that concludes those statements. At this point, we would offer the opportunity for any residents to make any comments on this memo.
Yeah, I just wanted, before I open that up, I want to amplify something for the public that's out there, and if you're interested. We have the island divided up in 5 segments. And in a 5-year span, we completely go through all the sanitary sewers and pull a camera through between 2 manholes through the sanitary sewer pipe. And we inspect all the sewers that way. We budget about $250,000 a year to do that. And if we see an area that you have a caved-in sewer or damaged sewer, we immediately go in. We can identify that spot so many feet from the manhole, and we go and dig it up and try to repair it. So that's a program we have. We've been doing that now, so this is our second 5-year term that we've been doing that. This is a program that's approved by the state, actually required by the state of Michigan. Anyway, so that's one thing I want to say. And the other thing is we've done an inventory of our manholes. That may sound trivial, but a lot of our manholes are old. Our sewer system is 60, 70 years old, some parts of it, and a lot of the manholes have deteriorated. So we inspected this program, we inspected the manholes, and with this grant, we're going to go in and line some sewers that are in bad shape, that are leaking, and also repair the manholes. So that cover that. So with those comments, if anybody has a comment, feel free to come up to the podium. Okay, I don't see anybody that is coming up tonight, but any public, I guess, if people are listening in, they can always contact the Township Manager's Office if they want more information. So with that, should we close this presentation?
Yes.
Unless there are any questions. Are there any questions from the commission?
No, sir.
Kevin, you're new. You had a chance to explain a little bit to you earlier what's going on here. So with that, we will close the presentation on the grant program and the sewer program. Next, we have some approvals to go through, and the minutes of our November 12th meeting are presented to you. There was a corrected version put out tonight that just identified 2 small sections where it did not display the name of the person who supported a motion that was made on various issues, and that when our wastewater treatment plant operator, Ryan Welch, spoke, there was no comments in the minutes, but there are now about what Ryan had said. So with those 3 additions, I'll make a motion to approve the minutes, the resubmitted ones that we received tonight for our November 12th meeting. Is there support?
Support as submitted. Go ahead,
Oh,
Linda.
Okay. Any other questions?
No, sir.
All in favor of approval of the minutes indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Minutes are approved. Next item is approve vouchers and approve our bills through, it's actually for a November, December, and January, because we did not have a meeting at Christmas time. We did not have a meeting in January. I've had a chance to look those over. I don't see anything that jumps out at me that's unusual. Any comments from the members of the commission? I'll make a motion again to approve the vouchers submitted in the packet tonight for the periods of November, December, and January. I make that motion. And you're going to second that, Kevin? Okay. Kevin Flavin seconded it. And there are any comments? Hearing none, all in favor of approval of the vouchers indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The vouchers are approved. Next, we have a review of our statement of revenues and expenditures for November, December, and January. And this is really a summary, an up-to-date summary by the finance director of all our various funds, which include the water and sewer, the wastewater plant, roads, drains, and our refuse collection program. And we don't require a approval, but does anybody have any questions on this?
Just for reference, if you're looking at January's month end, we should be at about 83%. So most accounts across the budget center are on track for revenues and expenditures.
Notice typically too that some things haven't been posted yet.
Right.
2 more months in the fiscal year.
Correct.
With that, we'll receive and file the statement of revenue and expenditures. Next item is approval of the treasurer's report that you've all had a chance to look at. And the treasurer's report are found on pages 26 and 27 of your packet. Are there any comments on the treasurer's report? Hearing none, I'd entertain a motion to approve the treasurer's report.
Motion.
That was you, Lenny?
Yes, sir.
Is there support?
Support.
It's been moved and supported that we receive the treasurer's report. And if there are no comments, all in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, the next item on our agenda, now we're into action items. The first is a recommendation of award of our sludge hauling contract. That report begins on page 26 of our packet. Derek, I'll turn that over to you.
Yeah, and I'll actually ask Ryan to give me a hand with this one too. It's nice he's here this evening to go over some of these items with me. I want to take advantage of that. The township has been using gullet sanitation on a contract extension for probably the past 3 or 4 years. This year we decided to go out and rebid the sludge hauling, decanting process. And one of the main reasons we decided to go out was because we're modifying from a single operation per year to 2 operations per year. And the reason for that is last year things got kind of tight over the plant before the operator or the hauler could get there and service the plant. And we don't want to run as tight as we were last year. We want to try to make sure that we have adequate capacity at all times. So in talking with Ryan and talking over the operations of the plant, or looking over the operations of the plant with those concerns, it's our recommendation to do it twice per year. That does increase the mobilization expense some because you're mobilizing twice. The hauling itself doesn't really change because it's going to be similar quantities if you were to do it once, but it just gives us a little bit more breathing room over there. So we went to bid. We received 2 bids. Gullet, who has been our previous provider, was still the low bidder. At an anticipated expense of $217,000, or right around $218,000 for the two events. So that's being recommended is to go with Gullet, and then if it's approved by the board, it would then, or the commission, it would then go to the township board at their second meeting in February, which I believe is the 23rd or 24th. And then Gullet would start effective March 1. The reason for the March 1 hauling date is because of the pending closure of the free bridge. We want to bring the material across and off the free bridge rather than the toll bridge. So we're going to try to squeeze that in from March 1 until the end of March. So, Ryan, anything you want to add to that?
Nothing really, no. That's pretty much it.
The only question I have on it, I think I know the answer. Our costs for hauling our sludge have really gone up the last 5 years. Last year, we budgeted $155,000. We actually spent $185,000. This is getting more expensive. And there are very few firms that do this. Both firms that bid were from Ohio, state of Ohio. And now we're budgeting, and it'll be reflected in next year's budget, as you've already said, $217,000 for this service. But it's essential that we do it and empty the sludge tanks at the wastewater plant. So, are there any questions? Anybody? Phil?
Just one question, Derek. We're pretty confident that the bridge is not going to be closed until after this would be accomplished if we start at 1st of March? I mean, I haven't heard any definite time for the bridge other than spring.
Yeah, we're fairly confident, but if it did run over, it's not like they're going to get stuck on the island. We would still be able to get them off the toll bridge. It's just we would rather not if we don't have to. So we'll do our best to try to get them on and off the island by the end of March.
Would that impact the cost if they had to go off the toll bridge?
Well, we'll own the toll bridge when they go off, so it should not.
Well, the weight of the trucks, I mean, what the current weighting of the toll bridge is, though.
We've reviewed it with our engineers, so I think we'll be okay with that.
Yes, we'll own it.
Yeah.
Okay, so that answers that. Kevin, Linda, any questions on this? I'll entertain a motion to approve the award of the contract to Gullet Sanitation Services for the fee of $217,000. $217,995.
Motion.
Support.
Little supported, and who made the motion? Lenny?
I did, sir.
Lenny?
Lenny made the motion.
Got it, Derek? Are there any further questions? Any comments? Anything else from you, Mr. Supervisor, or Bill Heil? Okay. With that, all in favor of the resolution indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? We have a contract, then we'll proceed with Gullet. The next item is award of a contract for pump house roof. And I gotta get through all this Gullet stuff to get to it. Based on the recommendation of public, this is our resolution of our commission, we recommend that Grosse Ile Township Board award a contract to a low bidder, Baird and Lawler, for the replacement of the roof at the pump house located on Bridge Road. And this is a pump station that involves our water system, correct?
Yeah, so the old water main that serviced the island on the north end used to come up into this pump house. That no longer services the island. We have a different water main that was installed some time ago that replaced the one that came into that pump house. That pump house is still used for storage, and if ever the township wanted to utilize that old water main that comes up into that pump station, it would serve potentially as a conduit for telecommunications runs and so on and so forth. So the DPS department has determined that that building still has value. It is a historical building as well, so we wanted to make sure it was weather tight. The roof has exceeded its life and needs to be replaced. Right now it's tarped because
For a while.
right? So this would take care of those issues.
Okay, well,
Question that I have on this though, Derek, when I look at the bids that you have outlined on the, and I look at the alternate column,
Yes,
what is that supposed to reflect when it says alternate, when I got? a
that's
higher
for,
Square foot with the low bid versus the lower cost per square foot with the high bid?
board replacement.
Okay.
So there is a difference in board replacement between the two bidders, but we don't we don't really know what the board replacement's gonna be until they get the
Start
roof.
stripping it off, right?
And I would imagine it would take a fair amount of board replacement to make up the $400 at $1, so.
Yeah.
Can I have a motion then to, are there any other questions? Hearing none, can I have a motion then to award a contract to Bard and Lawler for the replacement of the roof at the pump house building located on Bridge Road for $8,559? Can I have a motion to that effect?
Make a motion.
I'll second.
Got the motions?
Yep.
No further questions? Hearing none, all in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion is carried. Next is a recommendation to award a contract for odor control equipment at our wastewater treatment plant. And this is a confusing package you got here.
It is. I think one single-sided is probably a better option.
This starts on page 77, with all the backup material. Grove Seal Public Service, this is our recommendation again, hereby recommends to the Township Board the purchase of odor control equipment from Precision Odor Control to be installed at the wastewater plant primary clarifier room at a total cost of $13,943.86. Derek and Ron, you want to provide the background?
Hello, everyone. Background with this is around this December time we had complaints from residents who lived directly north of the plant that where they were experiencing odors, and we know where that odor is coming from. Our primary clarifier room, it has a vent fan which now is working around the clock, how it always should be working with our HVAC improvements. And honestly, this precision odor control stopped in at the plant in the fall time, and I just said, well, let's wait and see after our HVAC improvements here if we needed anything. And it turns out that his product, in my belief, is right for that room and that application. It's basically it's an air compressor that runs around the clock, and it dispenses a vapor in that room, and it goes out with the air of the exhaust fan in that room. I'm impressed with the product, and I think it is working, because even if you walk around the plant, like outside of the plant, way at the north side of the plant, you can smell this citrus. I believe it works. So
Okay,
yeah, that's just
so that was a problem that arose with
background
the
on
new,
that.
the new equipment installed as part of our ACO project?
Well,
No?
I guess we're having odor complaints as a result of that.
Okay.
That with our HVAC improvements, we have the exhaust fan was revamped in the primary room, which now runs around the clock, and it used to run only if we were in there. So this is the reason why you're having these odors. And that, so they came in and installed the unit. It was for December 4th it was installed, and then we wanted to first see if it would work, so we've been just using it, and and now we're at the point where you know, if we're gonna make a purchase of it or not. So, yeah.
Eric, you, oh, go ahead.
Well, the complaints that you got from the customers, were those during the summertime when they might have been more outdoors and than in the wintertime when they're not?
Yeah, they were mostly in the fall, and then after we installed the equipment to trial it, we followed back up with them, and they said there was a noticeable difference. They did make the comment like, well, we're probably outside less now because the weather isn't as good, but I think part of, you know, the effectiveness of it has been witnessed at the plant itself, like Ryan said. Not only in the room, not only on the grounds, which when they're out they can tell there's a difference. So, you know, we're hopeful that it'll take care of some of that for the neighborhood, if not all of it. You know, we're trying to be responsive to their concerns.
Right.
You know, the alternative is to, you know, it's fairly costly, hundreds of thousands of dollars to engineer and put a scrubber on those exhaust fans. So it seemed like a low-cost option to try initially, and then it seems to work. So implement it and hopefully avoid, you know, those larger, more costly endeavors if this can solve the problem. So
Derek, I think you said it, but just to emphasize again, you did loop back with the residents to see if there was any kind of appreciable difference with this
yes.
trial version, and they said that
Yeah,
it
they
appeared
said
to be-
that there was a noticeable difference.
Okay.
They didn't seem too optimistic that it would completely solve the problem. They said obviously they would have to tell as the summer season rolls around, but
Right.
yeah, they did notice a difference. Yeah.
Well, that's all we can do, you know.
Yeah, I can tell you that I remember when this happened this year because I've lived here for 25 years and never smelled anything. And we go down this road all the time, and especially in the summer. But it was in the fall, and we could smell it, definitely. And it didn't last that long, and I knew probably it was something to do with all the work you guys are doing. So it was gone after a little while. So we haven't smelled it. And like I said, we come this way all the time to come down to South End.
The vent fan is the only thing that's really changed that would have contributed to the odor. You know, the final clarifier isn't even operational right now, so that's not contributing to any odor, nor would it. And the primary is the stinkiest part of the plant, so that exhaust fan is taking that right outside, which is necessary. You know, we need to get that odor, not
Right.
that odor, but that gas out of there because it's very corrosive and damaging. So, you know, just shutting that off again is not really an option. So, hopefully, we try to be a good neighbor, and this is an effort towards
That's
that.
good. Good idea.
Any other questions?
Yeah, how many plants are these guys in?
How
Throughout-
many
Yeah, throughout the country. Are they
different
successful?
plants? They're in Ohio,
Okay, Ohio-based company.
Cleveland area,
Okay,
and actually all in Ohio. I looked on their website for, you know,
they've got market share in Ohio.
exactly. Michigan too,
Okay.
like smaller wastewater plants, even
That don't have scrubbers.
exactly. So I
Okay.
looked into them, and it does.
So they kind of fit that.
Like-
They fit that niche.
Yeah, they're known in the wastewater.
Okay.
Wastewater plants that are similar like ours.
Okay.
So, and they're real responsive and nice.
Yeah.
I'm impressed with them.
I was
So,
just curious if they had a track record and kind of what segment. You know, were they the large
Right.
wastewater treatment plants or the smaller ones, the more boutique
I
ones
think
like ours?
smaller mainly.
Because the cost of the scrubbers are obviously for the volume that
Exactly.
we do.
Your larger plants, you know, scrubber
We'll have scrubbers and
would
stuff,
make
right?
sense, but you got more of a budget, and there's just more of, you know,
Sure.
smell. But I mean, I believe now your only cost that is you're gonna have to have in the budget is this solution is it's expensive. So we're gonna have to refill it every month. So it's about maybe $8,000 a year
For
for
chemicals.
this solution, because you know it's like an oil-based solution. It's, you know, it's good stuff. So obviously, once you buy the unit, you just have that, you know, as an ongoing expense every year that I add in the budget. But except for that, I mean, it, you know, should last years and years, and they will service it to
That was my next, one
No.
of my last question. Is there a
Yeah.
service agreement with these guys to make sure things are always running smooth?
Yeah, in the contract here, they'll final installations included too,
Okay,
where they'll mount these vapor stations on the wall and everything. So they service the equipment also.
and they come in
So
monthly or
it's-
quarterly or whatever that schedule is?
Exactly. And
Okay,
if they're in the area, they'll, stop in. So I'm impressed with that. So it's like the one, stop with them that
worth a shot, no, fair enough.
Okay, so would you like Lenny to make a recommendation to, a motion to approve,
I think it's worth a try, I'll make a motion.
I'll
support.
to approve the purchase of at the wastewater plant of the precision odor control equipment to be installed with the primary clarifier room, in the primary clarifier room, at a total cost of $13,943.86. You made a motion, and it's been supported. Any other questions? All in favor of approval of the motion indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Thank you. Okay, there's a couple items that we're required to do, unrelated to the wastewater plant. One of them is approval of officers of this commission, DPS commission. All commissions have to approve officers. We've been asked to do that. You can nominate. The positions we have are chairman, vice chair, and secretary. Anybody, I'm opening it up to anybody make a motion.
Anybody that wants to be the chairman, please step forward.
I would nominate Bill Costick to remain as chairman of our DPS commission.
And I,
I
Yeah.
second it.
We'd all second that,
yeah,
I believe.
we all support that.
Well,
Yeah.
thank you. I guess what we should do is, the current officers, I'm chairman, Phil, you're vice chair, would you continue that? And if that's okay with everybody, Les Schmidtke was our secretary. Would somebody like to volunteer to be secretary? It's no big deal. It's just a position that, we need somebody. Ray?
Ray.
Linda? Lenny?
Have to sign the thing each month.
Rock, paper, scissors, one round.
So we need a complete motion unless there's somebody who wants to be chairman, that's fine with me, or vice chairman.
I'll do it.
Linda will do it?
Oh, there you go.
Okay. So the,
More senior on the
So-
staff, so it's important that she
so
takes that.
you made a motion. You want to finish it?
Well, I moved that you would remain as chairman.
And then you would remain as vice
And
chairman.
I'll remain as vice chairman.
That falls under,
Linda
yeah,
takes over the secretary role.
that falls under being voluntold.
Got that motion. Is there any
Support, I support.
Support all three.
further discussion on that? Hearing none. All in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you. So thank you very much. Thank Phil. Quite an honor. All right, Derek, I'm working my way through your packet.
Check these dates, are they all Tuesdays? We screwed it up one year. I don't have my calendar with me right now. I didn't check.
Want to check them real quick?
Okay, the other motion we have to make is required by the township clerk. We have to approve our meeting schedule for the fiscal year 2025, 2026. Derek has provided you with a memo which lists every, the second Tuesday of every month, April through March for the fiscal year. I'll make a motion to approve our meeting schedule. Is there support?
Support.
That's our normal meeting schedule, the second
Thanks.
Tuesday of every month. That's 7 o'clock in this chamber. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye, opposed? Our meeting schedule is approved. Next item. Now we're getting into the fun of roads.
Money spending.
The next item is an action item to approve awarding of our concrete road repair contract for 2025. Based on the recommendation of this commission and our engineers, the Department of Public Services hereby recommends that the Township Board approve a contract with a low bidder, Dominic Gaglio Construction, at a cost of $877.50. Furthermore, the DPS Commission recommends the authorization of a contingency up to 25% to expand the contract as permitted by the availability of funds at the unit prices established in the bid. I'll let Derek comment. We had 8 bids on this, and when we take bids for this kind of work, it's based on a unit price basis, depending on whether we're going to repair. These are all concrete roads. We purposely studied this last fall, put a map together, so going from the very south end of the island all the way to towards Bridge Road, we have concrete roads, we spread it out. So we're doing some in all the areas. And we got really the unit prices we got for concrete, either for a full slab or for sections down the middle where you have severe breakup and failure in the center lines or in the expansion lines of concrete, were excellent bids, excellent bid prices. So we have about a budget of about $600,000 that might be available for this kind of work. And this contract's for $495,877. Can I have in order to discuss this, can I have a motion from someone to approve the recommendation to award the contract to Dominic Gaglio Construction? Looking for a motion
I'll make a motion
to approve.
to approve this
Is
contract.
there support?
Support.
Supported. Now we'll open it up to any questions. First of all, Derek, you have any comments?
Bill, you did a great job of explaining it. The reason for the 25% is, if you recall, I think we have right around 1.1 to 1.2. I've got to get all the engineering costs together to really hammer that number down, but we've always tried to expend to the budget limits. When they're in the field and we're working on things, we like that, availability of those dollars already pre-approved to move them to additional locations to make sure we're taking advantage of the work, and the money. But like Bill said, we were real happy with not only the number of bids we received, but also the pricing that we received, so.
So Derek, this work is going to start approximately April, May timeframe,
No, this would be after the bridge reopens.
after the bridge reopens? Okay.
Correct.
All right.
And on page 83, you have a summary of the bids, the 8 bids, and it's kind of striking that the low bid was Dominic Gaglio for $495,000. The high bid was from a company I never heard of before, Olson Cement, for $1,100,000. So that's that's double. And there were a lot of bids in the $500,000 and $600,000 range, and I guess Dominic Gaglio wanted the work. We bid the job specifically in January. That's when you get your best bids for this kind of work, and we did get a good bid, so just wanted to point that out. When you get a contractor that's off base like double what everybody else is, they probably got a lot of work and they just threw it out there and see if they could get it.
Yeah, they don't want it.
At any rate, we have a motion. Are there other questions or comments? Hearing none.
Real quick, the incumbent has been here, what, 2 or 3 years so far, doing these repairs?
I think 2 years?
2 years prior,
Yeah.
so yeah, we've got some experience with them.
Oh, not the incumbent. No, I'm sorry. So GV was the contractor we used before.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Okay, I wasn't, because I saw some of his trucks on, I wasn't sure how much work he did in the past.
Yeah, he was in town, I think, for 2 years.
Okay,
But Gaglio comes with a good
yeah,
recommendation.
okay, fair enough.
Yep.
GV Cement has done a lot of work.
Has done a lot of work.
Over
That's
the
what I was
years.
thinking about, yes.
And they were at $587,000. Yeah, and I know last year I was told GV had a lot of work in a lot of communities, so.
A lot of community work.
Well, and I just want to emphasize that this is where the competitive bidding process works for the resident, because, we had a set budget or had available dollars, and every better price that we gets that much more money into the roads, right? So we'll take that $150,000 difference, in that bid amount and put it right back into the roads.
Right back into the
Yep,
roads.
Exactly.
No, fair enough. Competition's good.
Okay, with that, we have a motion and support on the floor. Any further comments? Hearing none, all in favor of approval of the contract and award to
Gaglio, or Dominic Gaglio
Dominic Gaglio.
Construction.
I got the other one in front of me, so.
Dominic Gaglio
Yeah.
Construction.
And, trying to get ahead of ourselves here with this confusing agenda format. And so the award is to Dominic Gaglio Construction for $495,877.50. Plus, we're recommending a 25% contingency, so this kind of work can be expanded if everything goes well. All in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Now we're doing one basic paving, asphalt paving project this year. We identified a long stretch of road, Elba Island Drive. Based on the recommendation of our engineers, the Grosse Hill and the Public Service Commission hereby recommends to the Township Board approval of the contract with the low bidder, Al's Asphalt, at a cost of $326,475. Furthermore, we recommend that the authorization of a contingency of up to 25% to expand the contract work as permitted by the availability of once construction takes place. There were 4 bids received. Al's Asphalt was the low bidder. Can I have a motion to approve the recommendation before we get into discussion? Linda Stanko, you want to make a motion?
Sure, I'll make the motion.
Is there support? That'll open it up for discussion.
Yeah, second.
Okay, with that, Derek, you want to comment?
This is for the mill and resurface of Elba Drive, Elba Road, from basically the bridge all the way to the private section of the road. Bids were good, once again, just like the concrete, good time of the year to bid, got good prices. The reason for the contingency is if we have these good unit prices with a contractor that's already mobilized in the community, if we have some budget availability, we want the prior authorization to move them. It wouldn't be on Elba, but to a different stretch of road that we have prioritized. So we'll make that determination. Once we finalize the budget, we're aware of all of our engineering costs and we know how much we exactly have to spend. And then we'll also say we might not take any of that budget availability and place it on asphalt. We might move it completely over to concrete. We might do the same with concrete over to asphalt. And so we'll have a little bit of flexibility there when we determine that budget where we want that additional money to go, because we do expect to have a good chunk of money with these good bids available in the budget to put back into the road. So that's why there's 25% on this one as well.
Okay. Other questions from the commission?
Nope.
Bill, go ahead.
Yeah, okay, so we were gonna do some smaller sections of certain roads also. We're still planning to do that with that 25%? Is that how I'm understanding this?
We had, we really didn't identify, I don't think, any smaller sections. We did a lot of small sections last year, but I think we had always just kind of focused on Elba. So, we can take a look at some smaller sections if we want to move some money around, but I think the focus had primarily always been on Elba Drive.
I guess, Bill, you had mentioned doing that entrance into Swan Island.
Oh, yeah.
And I'm also thinking about West River Road, where we've milled it off and it's now potholing significantly, whether we shouldn't need to address that.
Yeah, you are correct about Swan. I had forgotten about that one, so that would be an area.
That really just has some potholes in it now. It's not like it's undrivable.
Right.
But I'm looking at West River Road where they've milled off the bumps, and I'm wondering if it's not time we consider taking care of that and remedying that once and for all.
Yeah, I think there might be some bigger issues there. I mean, the reason that's failed now is because when they took that material off the top of those pipes, now you have less depth to your asphalt, so you're starting to see it. Not only is it rough, so the water's pooling and freezing there, but you've got less of a base, or you got less of a surface now, so it's just getting beat up. I think the permanent solution to that would be actually to lower those pipes that are crossing that road, and that's a much larger project.
That was a question I was going to ask. Have we verified that those are active drainage pipes going under each of those sections? Because I've gone around on the east side of it, and it doesn't look like there's even any egress to some of the locations.
Not all of them have been verified, but probably about 50 or 60% have. So of the 7 or 8 that are there, probably at least 4 of them were aware that they are currently functioning.
Okay.
We're not aware of the other ones, though. You know, when people build up their seawalls and their riprap all along the river there and cover up the outfalls, so you know, unless you can see it on the ground on the
I was
island
looking
side.
at it over on the residential side.
yeah.
I was
So
just
it's
curious about that. but
something
I-
we can look at for sure.
I would think it might be time to make a permanent fix to that.
There might be other options too, like you can cap it but ramp it, so it's not a big bump, but it's more smoothed out, so it's more of a crest. It's got less of a crest in it, so that could be an option too.
Would a section of concrete do it?
Possibly.
Yeah, saw cut
Possibly,
it out and
yeah.
put the concrete in there like.
Yep.
I mean, I
we've
know
done
that
in
would
East River.
create a problem with traffic-wise doing it, because you'd have to shut down a portion of the road, or else just do it on half the road,
Right.
have it one way, but I was,
Yeah, and they can put a plate on it and stuff like that. So there are options, but yeah, you can get away with less depth on your pipe if you have concrete rather than asphalt. So maybe that's an option, and that would be under the concrete contract,
Okay.
but we can look at that.
well, I think we ought to keep it on the radar.
Yeah, okay.
Oh, I'm glad you mentioned it, because John Keim has mentioned another one that we repaired a couple years ago, but at the intersection of Island Drive and East River Road, there's a little bit of a grade there, and we went in and did some drainage work, but that's a saturated piece of road, and it's only 100 feet long, and it's really broken up this winter. And I looked at it today with Kevin and Derek. We drove by it. It's quite alligator, so that means it's failing. That would not only include the asphalt surface, but we'd have to put a new pipe in to get that water out of there. So we could look at that too. So I've noted Swan Island. We'll look at that, and West River Road, those crossings, and that might be a bigger project if we wanted to remove some of those culverts, because they're a continuous problem. And then Island Drive at East River. So I made notes of those, and so back to our recommendation. So we're going to recommend awarding a contract here for Elba Drive, and we have a couple residents that want to speak. Are there other comments yet from the commission? So one thing that's occurred since we took bids, I was contacted by Dr. Brian Hartwell at Christmas time, and he expressed interest in learning more about the project and asked if they might be able to join our contract for the private section. So if you know Elba Drive, you drive up Elba Drive, and let's say 2/3 of the way from the bridge crossing, and you get up to the south end of it, and it becomes a private road. There's an entry structure, and then it becomes a private road. And so our engineers just measured the surface of it to come up with this cost estimate for you people, and it's with contingencies. It's 144,000, as you saw. With contingencies of 14,000 puts it up to 159,000. I understand that Brian Hartwell has contacted our assessor, and I don't know where he's got to go from. He's talked to you, Derek, about possibly setting up a special assessment district for you to get that accomplished. Time is of the essence, because we want to get this awarded. And as far as I know, we probably got a good bid, because contractor can move in on that section of road, even doesn't have to deal with gravel or mud. You can go in and mill off our section of it and get it right in and pave it this spring. That's probably what he was thinking, I'm guessing. Give us a good price.
I think we had always talked about the bridge being an issue, so I think it's probably going to actually happen probably later. But like Bill said, we like to bid things early because these contractors like to line up their work, so they like to make sure that their schedule is full early on. But this work will probably take place later. Now, the contract that we have will be with Al's. You would not be able to be on that contract with us because it's a municipal contract. You would have to partner with them separately on your own contract, because you guys are a different entity than obviously that we are. But I would hope that they would extend these unit prices to you, And obviously, it's gonna be, I think, more affordable, being that they're already mobilized at that location. And running a mill continuously is gonna be a lot more affordable than having a new vendor come in and remobilize and you know, have to reset up and start their whole operation just for that one stretch. So, you know, I just want to caution you that the unit prices that you have there are off our contract. You guys would need to talk with the vendor about, you know, that arrangement, and you could even potentially negotiate better pricing. But when they bid on our stuff, it's municipal pricing. Tax, you know, is taken into consideration. You know, their municipal pricing is taken into consideration, where you guys be a private entity that might be different, but I would hope not.
So I'm gonna, with that, I'm gonna give you an opportunity before we move forward. Or should we deal with our section and then invite them to come up? and speak?
questions, I guess.
You're welcome to come up and comment. Please identify yourself with your name. We already know you live on Elba. That's
Yeah,
all we
Elba.
need.
Jason Azagalian at 28378 Elba.
You say your name again?
Azagalian,
Ed?
A-Z, and it's a A-G-A-L-I-A-N.
Ed, you're welcome to speak.
Okay, so the 360 or 80, I don't know what it was, that was just from the gates to East River? This wasn't part of it?
326 would be from the gates to basically the bridge.
Okay, the bridge.
We had paid south of the bridge a couple of years ago.
Okay.
So it'll be wherever that stopped is where we would pick up and go.
And then I guess I had it did a couple things. A shoulder, they had $15,000 for a stone shoulder, which our grass butts right up to the asphalt, so we could probably save on that. And a couple other items on here we probably wouldn't need, but I guess we have to deal with asphalt, like you said, individually. And this is going to be escrowed, or are they saying the taxes?
Well, I think there were a couple of people in the subdivision there that were looking at maybe doing a special assessment, but I'm not sure if they're going to want to pursue that or not. And I think Brian was working on that. You know, there are some benefits to that. There's also some drawbacks to that. So you guys as a neighborhood would probably want to have that conversation and see what route you would want to go. So that would be my suggestion.
But to go to each homeowner and then talk to them, because
Well, the way a special assessment works is if you have 60% support, then basically it moves forward.
Okay.
And then it would be assessed on the taxes over a period of time, and you know, we would help facilitate some of that sort of stuff. Normally, on a project like what we see with a special assessment is like the paving of a gravel road, and then there are some considerations for Wayne County standards that would have to play into it, which a lot of times people don't want to special assess because it pushes it into that category. But this being a private road, I don't think that necessarily plays into that. But there would be some potential costs, but with some engineering, maybe oversight of the project, financing, things of that sort. So, you know, we can talk to you guys about the details
Okay.
of that offline.
I think, Ed, it is, Ed?
Jason. That's my middle name, so it's pretty, you're close.
I got it all wrong.
Edward.
Jason, I think what Derek's saying, the manager's saying is correct. You're probably going to have to get with Al's, but I would suggest, Derek, if they do, at least our engineer be present to help guide you through this, and then maybe yourself. But we have a special assessment ordinance, so it has to be followed. And it requires a couple public hearings, I think. So I would assume that the sooner you can try to schedule something might be better for you. We have to see if Al's willing to work with you on it. And I looked at the items that we have to bid, you know, the shoulders and other things where I know you don't have any shoulders. And one thought I had is that, well, we're going to go for 4 inches. Maybe you at the end of the road could just go for 3 to save on some quantities. But then I saw how bad your pavement's broken
That's
up.
terrible.
Probably should go for 4 inches.
Yeah. We still have the same garbage
Do
trucks.
it right, yes.
Got some
Deliveries, it's, yeah.
Got some terrible holes out there. So I presented you with this. What I'd like you to do, not publicly, but I would like your contact information, if you'd write it on here before
Okay.
you leave. Yeah. So we have it. I have Brian Hartwell's,
Right.
and go from there.
The other thing too is with Al's, he specs out, according to our bid, a certain type of pavement based upon what Wayne County requires us to do. Now, you might be able to talk to him about different types of paving material, which might save some money, assuming that, there's a savings there if he has to bring a different type when he's already using a certain type on that. So you'd have to talk that
Okay.
out with him, but,
You have another situation, talking about the culverts going across, I don't know if you're familiar with the one that Elba has too. Same thing's heaved up, just like the West River ones.
there's two of them on that road. We just drove it today. There's one right before the gate that Brian made us aware of, and then there's another one that's farther down too. So we'll take a look at those when we repave.
Oh, by the gate, that's a speed bump, I think, isn't it?
Is it?
Yeah, that's a speed
Brian
bump.
mentioned thought it was a drainage pipe.
Yeah, that's a speed, there's just the one.
Okay.
And it's just the cold air gets in it and it heaves every year. That's what happens with those culvert pipes. You have to put a structure on each end and take them out. That's the only way I think we can solve it.
So we'll be looking at that when we go redo that road, so.
Okay.
Normally, something like that, when the contractor gets ready to go and we go out to stake it, then the engineers will look at those, and they're aware of them too, because Brian made us aware of it.
Okay.
Well, and decide what to do then, because those aren't major fixes.
Then you guys have probably some driveway approaches you might want to work out with him too, your flares at the end of your driveways, if they want to pave back some of that, you have to talk
Yeah.
with that.
Most of them are paved, concrete.
Are they concrete?
Yeah. And then the other ones are stone, like the Oldsmobile Mansion, but it's a pretty easy project for them. I think straightforward, except the turnaround in the end would be probably the toughest.
Yeah.
And the gates, narrow gates, but, all right, that's all I had. And I'll get together with Brian when he gets back from vacation.
Okay, if you want to put your contact information here for me, at least I'll give it to the manager and we'll have it.
All right, thank you.
Okay, so back to our business. We have a motion and a second to award the contract to Al's Asphalt for $326,475 plus a 25% contingency amount, if we can, in the chance that we can do additional work. And we're going to look at the Swan Island intersection at South Point as a possibility, Island at East River as a possibility, and possibly repairs on West River just north of Grow. Okay, does that cover it for everybody?
Covers it.
Yeah.
Everybody's in agreement then? We have a motion. Any further questions? All in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? So the motion's carried. Thank you on that. Finally, we have a recommendation to award a purchase of Amiad filter at the wastewater plant. And Derek, I gotta try to find that now.
90.
105. No, sorry, Amanda.
The recommendation is that we would recommend to the township board that the commission recommends to the township board the purchase of an Amiad self-cleaning filter at a cost of $19,639 at the wastewater treatment plant. I'll leave it up to you, Derek and Ryan, to explain that.
I'll explain this. So this item was actually in the budget last year, and at that time it wasn't as much of a priority, so we moved it up into this year. We had a leak in it about a couple weeks ago. It's iron, cast iron, and it it's 18 years old. So what this is it's an automatic filter for our plant water pressure system. So for like our plant hoses, our carry water for our bleach system, we actually use our effluent water. So it's our effluent water that we let out into the river, our product. So this actually filters out the fine solids which are in our effluent. So it's in essence, it's a screening system. And if you don't have it, then over time, all the plant hoses and our process carry water pipes will get like solids in it. So you don't want to have that, obviously. So it was leaking a couple weeks ago, and we're actually able to weld it, like spot weld the unit where it was leaking, and it's holding, but it might spring a leak in another location. And that's in the plant on level 3 in the plant. So obviously, if that's leaking, then that's going downstairs to our sump pump, and then that's running. So it's a so I just kind of decided on this that if we would just go ahead and purchase it. Now, we are buying the exact same unit, which we have right now, except it's the newer version of this unit. So we're not going to, and the unit works well, so I'd recommend it. I wouldn't switch with another unit or another name brand. So this process engineering equipment company is Amiad's rep here in Michigan. And my thinking on this is that if we waited until after April 1 and then this went out for a bid, we'd have to wait, for whichever contractor was picked, then that contractor would have to order it, and then it could take like months and months more time. Now, obviously, the labor part for this is that part will go out for a bid, but my thinking on this is just for us to have the unit at the plant as soon as we can have it, to save some time.
Yeah, because if you see the shipment lead time is 16 to 18 weeks. So we want to try to get ahead of that.
So my question is on your page 91, the breakdown by process engineering, technical notes, item number 1, a non-return check valve is required at the outlet of each filter. And it says the valve to be provided by others. Does that need to be included in this new filter installation?
I think what I have listed in the authorization is $19,639, which is the unit plus the spare part kit and the seals kit. Ryan,
Well,
I guess that's a good question for you. Are there any other items?
spare parts kit, on the last unit, we never had that ever. This unit has like a mesh metal filter, which already comes with the unit. So,
Right.
so I wouldn't recommend spending the extra money on an extra one of those, because that
Well,
never breaks.
this is a check valve that's going to be on
Sure.
either end of it to prevent the backflow.
Yes.
So I don't know
Yep.
how old that check valve is, whether that's going to be in
So
good shape or
when
not.
we
Yeah.
bid the install, it'll include reworking, or not reworking, but replacing some upstream and some downstream piping, which would include those valves. So that would be part of the spec that we would bid for the install.
Okay,
So
That'd be on the contractor. Yep.
all right.
Yep.
But
Exactly.
you're saying that the spare part kit isn't something that is necessary?
It's not really necessary because we never had one before, and if we needed it, I mean, it's a new unit, we can just purchase that at another time. So I would just purchase the actual unit, and that's it. And then it's like Derek was saying, once this goes out for bid, Sea Rains will look that over and work with this process engineering to make sure we have everything that we need. I think there's two valves that we got to add in there also, which are original, but
Yeah, it's just that when you're in there already working and, you know, you just want to make sure you only have to touch it ideally once, right? So.
exactly.
Yeah, this
Yep.
is just gonna be, we'll
Yeah.
order the part, it'll sit at the shop, and then,
Yep.
you know, the contractor will come in and use that part that we purchased to do the install, so.
And that's all in the bid, so we'll make sure that everything that has to be complete's in that bid, so it's gonna work right, yeah.
We've done this before.
Yeah.
We've done this before on some of the other stuff we've done, where we bought the parts direct from the supplier, because we could get a better price and we'd be tax-free, and then, I think we did that with the primary rebuilds, we
did, yep.
bought the equipment, and then had it delivered, and then we bid out the install, so they're two separate, rather than one together, so.
Okay.
Okay, following this discussion, then, I don't think we ever had a motion to make this purchase, getting ahead of ourselves here. And so, I'll make the motion to make the purchase.
I will support.
To award, now, the new amount won't be the 19,000. It'll be the 18,000. I gotta find the sheet, Derek. 18,770. That's just to purchase the equipment without.
So Ryan, did you say you wanted you should get the seals kit as well?
The seals kit is 325. Yeah, I guess we could have that.
Okay, so with
That
the
makes
seals,
sense.
with the seals
Yeah.
kit, it's $19,075. So we're
Yep.
just taking off $564.
Okay, so the figure we're looking at now is $19,075.
Correct.
Recommends the township board that we purchase the Amiad, is that how you say it?
Amiad, I
Amiad
guess.
self-cleaning filter at a cost of $19,075. That's motion, and is there support?
Support.
Support.
Supported. Any further discussion? Hearing none. All in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Approval, I'm sorry. Anybody opposed? So we're going to move forward with that purchase then for $19,075. Okay. That takes care of all of our action items. Going to have a discussion next on our, are you done, Ryan, with your
Yeah, I'm
report?
done. Yep.
Any further comments from you? No. Okay,
All right.
thank you.
Thanks, Ryan.
We're going to have a discussion on budget priorities and an update from our manager on budget priorities. And you all will have a memo that begins on page 94, and it includes 95 and 96, those pages. And then we're going to have a discussion on our water reliability study and possibility of bonding. So with that, Derek, I'll let you go through your memo. So beginning, now we're going to refer to page 94, where Derek's made some comments. You want to go through them?
Sure. So as the memo indicates, normally we would like to use this meeting to go kind of line item by line item with you with the proposed budget, but we're not quite to that point with the draft budget yet. So in lieu of that, I wanted to at least take the opportunity to talk over some priorities with you so that when I put the budget together, you know, I'm taking into consideration anything that you guys want to prioritize in the upcoming fiscal year. What I've put on this list are various things that I, as the department manager, are aware of. Ryan, as the plant operator, is aware of. John, as the field lead, is aware of. Things that are in our capital improvement schedule, and make sure that, you know, I indicate those to you and show you those, and then once again also solicit your input on anything. My intent would be during the March meeting is to bring that draft budget back to you, and then we would go line item by line item within that budget, showing you the trends, the changes, where funds have been allocated, rate structures, things of that sort, like we've done in previous years, so what things we're proposing for the upcoming fiscal year, and then hopefully receive a recommendation from the DPS Commission to approve the budget as far as the board goes, to recommend to the board the approval. So I'll just go over this quickly. Hopefully you've had the opportunity to read through it, and then I'd be looking for any input that you might have. As far as GLWA rates that we receive each year, normally there's an increase. We haven't gotten the increase yet from GLWA, so we're unaware of what that adjustment is going to be for the upcoming fiscal year. Once we get that rate adjustment memo from them, we'll factor that into any kind of rate changes that we need, which has kind of been our practice over the years, to pass along any increases that we have from GLWA within the water bills. So I'll have to figure that out once I get that rate increase memo, which should be coming here very, very shortly. We'll obviously factor in any adjustments to water sales based upon what our trends are as we get a little bit closer to the end of the fiscal year. If you look at our revenue reports, we're tracking pretty well, so my expectation is that our sales should be similar to what they were last year, which was about 250 million gallons, so we should anticipate something close to that for the next fiscal year, but we'll know better by the next meeting. We're going to be doing a residential cross-connection program as we have in the past couple of years. We might also try to build into that our commercial cross-connection program. So I'm waiting on a price from Hydro Designs to incorporate both cross-connection programs into one quote. So I have a meeting on Friday with them to get that revised quote from them. So I'll have that figure hammered down a little bit closer, but the expectation is going to be right around $60,000 for our cross-connection program. GIS assistance, that's just for our water account, updating any new water main activities that we have ongoing and building those into our GIS system to make sure it's updated. That's significantly less than we've had in the past couple of years, so $7,500 there. We've done a lot of our water asset management plan and our reliability study within this fiscal year, so the next fiscal year we don't expect to have much in the way of expense there. I think last year we had something close to 70 or 80,000 budgeted in the reliability study and the asset management plan, which once that's been resolved, and we shouldn't expect too much in the way of cost. I've put a minor amount in there just because we expect to have some carryover from this fiscal year to next fiscal year for that project. So we've taken that into account. As has been the trend with previous fiscal years, with the aging of our water meter system and the more frequent replacement of meters and radios and batteries, we continue to put a little additional money into that account each year to make sure that it's properly funded to support those increased costs. If you recall, we had talked at length at previous meetings about our lead service line inventory. Of the units we tested, or the residences that we excavated, and then our records reports, we came up with 45 lead service lines island-wide. We have a fairly long time to replace those, but what we would like to do in talking with our maintenance lead, talking with John, we'd like to try to budget to replace all those within a 5-year period. So we've set aside, or we hope to set aside, about 70,000 in the next fiscal year to do about 10 next year. And they range, depending upon the complexity of the replacement, between 5,000 and 7,000 per home. So that would give us, on the higher end, enough money to be able to do at least 10 of them. And then we have an older backhoe at the shop, and in talking with the maintenance crew, they would like to see if we could replace that. So we have, I just received quotes today for the replacement of the backhoe. It's about $140,000 expenditure, but what I did in Gibraltar and what a lot of the municipalities are doing is they're doing like a zero payment lease. So basically what that means is that 140 or 150,000 would be paid over a 5-year period. It's pretty much at like 0% interest, and at the end of the 5 years, it's completely paid off. So essentially, you're financing it. So it would end up being about $35,000 per year. So we would try to build that into the budget, and then we would have to determine what we would want to do with our old backhoe. We could either trade it in, we could auction it, we might want to sell it to another department within the township. So we'll try to build that in, and once again, these are, this is our kind of our wish list, right? So we'll see how everything pans out with the rate structures, with GLWA and whatnot, but that's what we're looking at for the next fiscal year for our water account.
Derek, one question on the water before we move off. Any update on all that water loss that we had from the bridge company or from the new bridge construction over Meridian? I forget the name of the contractor that, that severed that main water line that,
So with regards to the litigation,
yes.
so that has been settled.
Oh, good.
So the board, 3 or 4 months ago, I think it happened during the previous board, there was an offer of $215,000 as a resolution for the issue, and the board chose to accept that offer. So there were a lot of things that were taken into consideration, but that case is closed, and we've been reimbursed. And a matter of fact, I think on probably the financial reports, you'll see like litigation settlement or something, 215 coming in. So that
Okay.
That's in there. So that's all done.
All right, great. Thank you.
Sewer system. So this is the wastewater treatment plant will be the next section. So this is really, we're talking about like community-wide sewer system. I'm trying to find my notes here. Looking at different pages. So we're not sure if we'll need an adjustment yet. We have to take a look a little bit more and have some more definition of what our expenditures are going to be. So I won't be able to say whether we have suggested adjustment to any of the sewer rates until we get a little bit better handle on our expenditures. We just received bids for that sewer work as part of that grant. It ended up being bid at about $1.5 million, so that'll come to the commission in March for recommendation to the board to award that. What we're going to have to do is budget in the sewer account for our grant share. So the grant share is 20% plus any engineering expense. So 20% of $1.5 million plus the engineering expenses, what we're going to have to budget in our sewer budget for next year. So that'll have to be taken into consideration. It'll be part of that budget. But we'll be able to get a substantial amount of sewer work done for a limited amount of expense from the township, that 20% plus engineering. So we'll build that into the budget. And I want to try to work with Teresa a little bit on that, because if you recall, we had like 2.5 million coming in on grant revenue and then 2.5 million going out on expenditure, and it's not really representative of what the actual cost to the township is. So I want to clean that up a little bit because it skews the books and it makes it a little bit more difficult to manage that. So, and understand what's happening there. None of that revenue and none of that expense was realized, and probably won't be realized within this fiscal year. So that will actually be pushed into the next fiscal year. So you can just expect that none of those expenses or revenue is going to be realized within this fiscal year. So does that make sense? Okay.
And that's because of the way the grant's going to work?
Correct. Yes.
All money and whatnot?
Yep.
The only other question I have in that is, the ultimate goal is, in repairing these sanitary sewers, is to reduce the inflow and infiltration, which impacts the wastewater plant by having less flow through it that's not sanitary sewer, but stormwater. So that's the ultimate goal. Yep.
So I explained that on page 95, some of that grant stuff. And then we'll have to budget for our standard cleaning and televising, which actually, when we rebid that cost went up significantly. So I think in previous fiscal years, it was like $150,000 per year to do that work. Under the current contract, it was $250,000. So that's a 5-year contract at $250,000 per year. So that will be built into the budget. The wastewater treatment plant. So our sewer revenue supports not only the system, it also supports the plant. So when you see the budget, both entities operate off of the single sewer charge. The sewer charge.
Hold on a minute, Derek. We have a problem?
Sorry, I'm off. So they operate off the same sewer revenue that we get on your water bill. So both plant and sewer system. So there is no separate wastewater treatment plant charge on your water bill. It's all under the same revenue stream. So financed through the same revenue stream. ACO is pretty much complete. There shouldn't be a significant amount of cost remaining for that. We have some meters that have to be financed through the ACO, and through that bond. But so there shouldn't be a lot in the budget for that. Veolia's contract, it's got a 3.53% increase, so that'll be considered in the budget. The HVAC has been completed at the plant. That was about a $750,000 expenditure. We've got a voucher down the grant share of that, so our 80%. We've got to send in all our stuff to EPA and then get our grant dollars back. So that's in process right now. Speaking with Ryan, we put together a capital improvement project list. Do you have a copy of it with you, Ryan, or do you want a copy of mine?
I got it right here.
Okay, all right.
Yeah.
So if you want to go over that, Ryan, I can support you on that.
Okay. Yeah, I can read that off. The lime mixer gearbox rebuild, 30 grand. That is what mixes our lime slurry tank, and that's original. That's probably 15 plus years old. So what we're gonna actually do is it's less money. We buy a new gearbox, and then we send ours in, and they just refurbish that one, so it's a lot less money. But the one that we get is new. So I wanna handle that one. The ferric day tank replacement. What that is, ferric chloride is a chemical that we use at the plant for phosphorus removal, and that ferric day tank is original. It's probably 40 years old, and the metal stand is getting old, so we just want to replace that. And I put 30 grand in there because I think that tank is 5 to 10,000 with the stand, and then we might need help with that on the labor end. So that's why I put that in there. The SFE Amiad filter labor, 60 grand. So as we already talked about, we're gonna purchase the actual unit for 20 grand, but then we need the labor portion is this 60 grand for whoever's gonna come in, remove our old one and install the new one with various valves and whatever we need. So that's some rigging and lowering in the plant. It's on the third floor, and that Amiad filter weighs probably 400 pounds. So that's a little bit of work, for labor. The EQ basin channel monster rebuild, that is what shreds up all the rags in the basin. So when we have high flows and we fill the basin, it minces up all those rags. That channel monster is original. It's from 2005. So this 60 grand is pretty much, it's a rebuild of that. 4 Vega radar level indicators for the 4 remaining lift stations. We have 5 lift stations on the island, and the old level indicator is it's like a stick that sits in the well. Well, all those are probably 10, 15 years old, and that's the old style of that. The new is the radar, which it's a radar. So each of those are about 6 grand a piece. So I put 25,000 The 4 multi-smart system upgrades, we've already upgraded East River lift stations. So in the lift station is a computer that pretty much runs the lift station. And those are all from like 2007. So the version is old, and if you ever have a problem out there, you can't replace it, or you're going to be, So I just figure we just replace the other 4 of those, so that we don't have problems. So all that comes out to $250,000, which is about right if we want to spend at the plant about $300,000 a year. So,
Yep.
And that's about all of our needs right now.
It's a good list for us to chew on.
Yep. The odor control solution is an ongoing cost, $10,000. Sodium bisulfite, $15,000. We're going to be using that again because the ACO work is over, so we have to use that again at the plant. And then obviously the sludge haul will be about $200,000, as we've seen that expense is up, for after April 1, mainly since we'll be hauling 2 times a year. So, but that's all I
Okay.
got.
Thank you for that summary. And are we done with that?
I think so, yeah.
Are you done with it?
And then Veolia, it's not finalized, but our annual contract is looking like it's going to go up 3.5%.
We already, I think
which
we
is
already,
in line.
We
so I
already
just-
approved that, I think.
Yeah, so I just want to let you know that.
That'll be in the new
It's part of
budget.
the contract, the
That'll be next
contract
month.
terms that we have with them. Yep. So,
All I got.
You don't want to forget that.
No, well, that's an every year thing, but.
thank you, Ryan.
All right, yep.
Thanks, Ryan.
Refuse,
Before you get into that,
Sure.
I saw our supervisor. I know you've had a couple of long evenings, Joe. I want you to know I appreciate you being here, and you too, Bill, but do you want, if you want to come up and comment before you leave? Okay. Go ahead, refuse.
Refuse, we signed a new contract with Priority. We also are doing our disposal with them now. We knew that there were going to be some expense increases because the writing was on the wall within this current fiscal year, especially because the contract was actually up in, I think, November. So we've already taken that into consideration in last year's or this current year's refuse rates. So there already have been adjustments to account for that in the current fiscal year. So we wouldn't expect there would have to be a significant change in the refuse rates because that's already been taken into consideration. So it should be pretty much status quo with regards to that, but we'll hammer down those numbers as we finalize the budget. So drainage, we have a couple of proposed projects for 2025, some work off Lakewood, Wood, and Park Lane, continuation of the drainage grant program, and then normal engineering and permit fees of $40,000. If you recall, we get about $240,000 per year for our drainage millage. So there should be a little bit of availability for some additional drainage work, but knowing that we have some drainage work associated with some of our road projects, we want to probably leave a little bit of capacity there to be able to have some funds to address those drainage issues if necessary. Road maintenance, we're going to budget, I believe, again this year for 2 times application of the dust bond material. That was right around $90,000 to $100,000. So that's been very well received. I think we've kind of dialed down to when it's most effective. So we'll continue with that plan because it seems to work. If that's the interest of the commission. Roadside mowing as previous years, priority winter maintenance as in previous years, emergency snow removal as in previous years. additional staffing for roadside cutting as in previous years, and then with the balance of what we have available in the road maintenance account, we would use that funding for crack sealing again this year, and we'll try to partner with neighboring communities that already have that out to bid to piggyback on them, because that's a very good preventative maintenance measure that we see a lot better longevity out of our roads when we take advantage of that. We've talked extensively tonight about the road capital work, so I won't go too into depth, but our road budget will take that into consideration, the work that we have scheduled and also the contingencies, because looking back at the math, it looks like we might actually be closer to 1.3 million available. So, but once again, I got to hammer down that engineering cost before I can finalize that number. But that's part of the reason why I wanted some of that flexibility in the contingency for those authorizations so that we can work with what's available. So, Phil, you look like you got a question on that. Okay.
Phil.
One question, Derek, the Great All project, that's in this drainage money? Are we going to continue that this year? We've been doing the Great All.
Yes.
That's included in that?
Yes.
Okay,
Yep.
got it. Want to make sure we weren't leaving that out.
And then usually I try to summarize the proposed fee schedule. That hasn't been finalized yet, so it wasn't available for this memo. So those are just kind of the thoughts, the highlights. Do you have any questions, concerns, priorities that aren't listed here that you would like to see if we can fit into the budget?
Anybody? You know, normally our normal operating costs are standard, and whatever things go up, whether it's office supplies or personnel costs or whatever, we're not adding into personnel. That's normal. It's the capital what you're focusing on here, and that's what drives us to all the decisions and bidding out that we do. So that's a good summary.
Good.
Next item, you want to talk briefly, just about the upcoming, it could be 2 or 3 months from now before we finalize things, could be June, on our water, what we're going to do for water improvements and how we're going to finance them. So
Right. So I think one of the priorities for the meeting tonight was to talk about water main replacements and bonding. But I wanted to at least, because the majority of that stuff's not ready for conversation yet, I at least wanted to include a memo that gave you some indication of where we're at. So the reliability study and the asset management plan aren't quite complete. We had hoped that they would be, but there's some feedback that we have to go back and forth with the engineer on to make sure that the priority list is taking everything into consideration, which they've asked for our opinion on some things from the field group, you know, what they're witnessing in the field. Because the engineers, they do their engineering, but they're not in the field necessarily dealing with all the water main breaks and knowing some of the things that we know. So that's kind of where we're at right now, is moving around the priority list, and then also making sure that the asset management plan is something that's affordable. So they've identified a long list of work that needs to be done. We're getting that more detailed. We're getting it more organized in a fashion that we can wrap a financing plan around. And I don't want to come to the commission or the board with authorizations for bonding yet, because we don't know how that bonding strategy looks. We need to take into consideration 20 to 25 years worth of capital improvements, and pulling the trigger on a short-term bond for $3 million might screw up our ability to finance things down the road, because now we have that debt that we have to account, for, that might inhibit our ability to finance things with cash and so on and so forth. So once we get to the point of the asset management plan being finalized, then we can build that financing strategy around it. Just a good point is, I indicated in my memo, $45 million. Just in the past week, we've dialed that down to closer to, I think, 20 or 25 million, something like that. Because 45 was not going to be something that was going to be achievable. So that type of thing is happening right now. We've also elongated the asset management plan capital improvement schedule out to 25 years rather than 20 years. So there's been some significant changes that have occurred. What I do have here is the availability under the current budget for capital expenditures all the way out to 2045. So you see what kind of available dollars we have. That amount there is about $12 million. If we build that out another 5 years, you'd gain about another $5 million. So you got $17 million to finance close to 20 or 25 million. So we need to figure out how we're going to work that out, how it's going to work with the rate schedule, things of that sort. And I want to provide you a total package so that we're not guessing what it's going to be. It'll all be laid out for the next 25 years. So until that's ready for you, which we hope to have in the next, 2 to 3 months, I wouldn't want to present anything to you that, would be asking you to make a decision on something that's not a full picture. So I know that's a lot to say, but that's kind of where we're at, right, with things.
I assume that the nature of this, we might have 2 or 3 meetings on it.
Yes, absolutely. And we're going to have different bonding schedules. We're going to have things that might be saved for, and we'll pay cash. And we might have, a combination of bonding and cash. We might push projects out to 5 years from now and not do anything for 3 years as you're banking money. So you're right. There's a lot to talk about. Trying to figure out where the money's going to come from to fund these large obligations. So
Okay, thank you. Anything else for now?
that's it.
Okay, then there's the DPS projects update. Well, and the water loss report. What I'd suggest is, everybody's had a chance to read our, Joe, Mr. Supervisor, thank you, Joe, for coming to the meeting. What I would suggest is, we don't need to go through this.
Yeah, I think most of the projects that we've been working on, you guys are familiar with.
Just an update on.
If there's anything specific, you can ask, but you're correct.
Does anybody have any questions on this?
No.
We need to read it. So every month we get something similar to this, and it's not totally updated anyway, so, from the engineers. And the water loss report, I don't have any comment on that. Does anybody have a question on the water loss report? So we'll receive and file that information. John Keim is not, are you done, Derek?
I am done, yep.
Okay. John Keim is not here this evening. You don't have any report for him, do you?
I don't know.
Okay. There's no public, well, there is. We got Bill Heil here. So, Bill, I'd like you to come up, and you're always got some good comments to make. And so this should give you an idea, Bill, of the kinds of things that we're going to work on this year.
Glad to see that you're looking to the future. Can you hear me? Am I on?
I can hear you, but I don't know if you're on.
Thank you. With a view to the future, that's important. There's a lot of money here. There's a lot of concerns. And I think you're addressing them well as I'm listening to this. You're planning it and managing it to take the money you have and do the most you can with it. I commend that. I guess that's the simplest thing I can say, Bill. Thank you for your courtesy here.
Okay. Well, thank you, Bill. You're going to get an award for short comments tonight.
That wasn't a challenge.
Okay, the next item on our way we function, we're going to go around. The chairman doesn't have any other report tonight. I don't have any more comments. We start with the commissioners and see if you have any comments. So, with that, I'm going to ask for Kevin. Do you have any comments? Anything you'd like to talk about?
I'm impressed with your agenda, and thank you. Very good first meeting for me. Thank you.
I just wonder if you're going to invite the new board members for a tour of the waste management treatment plant, because I know how much you love that.
Kevin's been there today.
There you go.
Derek's taken other board members through the plant. So I think then, I know he's taken the
Been a lot of changes since then, though.
supervisor through, but it does look really nice.
It does, it does.
Phil?
Well, I just want to bring up one thing real quick. I'm sure everybody's, Derek especially, has read about this situation with Macomb County complaining about Oakland County with all their excessive runoff and discharge that's coming into Lake St. Clair. And I had read recently that one of the representatives, Wozniak, is introducing a resolution that's going to require all combined systems to limit their discharge or face very excessive fines. And I know we have a combined system, and I just think it needs to be on our radar to pay attention to what's happening here legislatively. We put a lot of money in our wastewater treatment plant to reduce our overflow discharges in cases of heavy rainfall, but we gotta keep an eye on this, because if it starts to get traction and legs, it could end up affecting us.
Okay, my comment is, we don't have a combined system. So the only way that we're getting the stormwater in the system into the sanitary sewers, where houses were, prior to 1973, were legally permitted to have their footing drains connected into the sanitary.
Right.
But you have, in Oakland County, there's some older communities that have truly a combined system. And most of those are gone now.
Yeah, like Detroit's a combined system.
Now, there's I know a little bit about Oakland County. They have the Red Run drain, they call
Right.
it. This is a drain that you can drive a truck through. It's 10-foot diameter, square box pipe. And I think that's what's caused the problem. And there's a dispute between Oakland and Macomb counties right now over the sewage flows.
But he's concerned about any excessive discharges. So I'm just saying, these things, keep track of it, and if it gets legs, we want to make sure we're on top of it, because in reading what he has proposed, it basically just mentioned any excess overflows he wants to, if it's not reduced and eliminated, it's going to be fined, and it would be excessive. And so I think we need to pay attention to that.
And this is between Oakland and Macomb
Well,
counties?
mainly the concern was because of what happened up with Oakland, but his proposal, if you could read through this, and it's very brief, it would apply to any discharges from any county.
Can you make that available to Derek?
Sure,
And,
absolutely.
He can decide whether he wants, if you want to distribute it to us in a new packet or look into it further.
Sure.
Okay.
There's your copy.
My copy?
Sure.
You're going to give a copy to Derek? You have a copy? We give this to him.
I can make another one. I'll give that one.
If we
to
give
you.
this to him, I'm thinking if he wants to
Yeah, and then he
send
can-
it to us, he
Sure.
can do that. Yeah. All right, well, thanks for bringing that up.
That's it for me.
Okay. Ray,
I have nothing. We had a good agenda, good meeting tonight, so.
Lenny?
No comment, sir. We're good.
Okay, thank you. With that, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn the meeting.
Motion to adjourn the meeting at 21:45.
21:45, okay.
Well, I gotta fill Les's spot,
8:40, oh, there you go.
right?
Well, he's not replaceable.
He's not replaceable, but I promised him I would do my best, and I will fall short every time.
Okay. 21:45 then. Their support? Support. All in favor? Aye. Aye. Meeting's adjourned. Thank you.